Hey, how's everybody doing today? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And today I have the a really cool guest with me. I've been waiting to talk to Jones for a while, and finally schedules aligned on my end more so than his. I'd like to introduce Jones Loflin, one of my favorite authors. That I just love reading his books. And if you're not familiar with him, we're going to familiarize uh, you with Jones today. So, Jones, welcome to Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And like I said, I've known you for a while, but can you take a moment to tell viewers a little bit about yourself and what have you been up to lately?
Sure, Mark. I so appreciate that, and thanks for that kind introduction. I appreciate your warm energy. You're just one of those real people, Mark, and I appreciate that about any conversation we ever have. It's like two people have known each other for a lifetime, and that's always
Yes.
special. So, I am a professional speaker and author and coach. Been doing that for about 30 years. In fact, I'm starting my 31st year. Primary areas of focus for me are leadership, time management, work life balance, work life integration. I say with any of my presentations, the whole goal is to help people make better choices with their time so they can thrive. And so that's what I do. That's not who I am. I'm Jones Loflin, spouse of Lisa Loflin. Been married 35 years in June of this past June. I have two amazing daughters, one really cool son-in-law, and another
All
one on
right.
the way. I have two really cool son-in-laws come March of next year, so I'm excited about that. Um,
Congrats.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. And my favorite word is flummoxed. Isn't that a cool word?
That
Flummoxed. I mean,
is.
when you just don't know what to say or do about something, you just go, I'm just flummoxed. And so I just love using that word. Of course, I always have to explain it to people then.
Uh,
And one of my favorite things to do is exactly what we're doing today is to have a good conversation over a cup of coffee. And so coffee talk with Brohawk, here we are.
there you go. Excellent. Oh my gosh. Flummoxed. All right. Now I got
Isn't
to
it
ask the
great?
question. What does it mean?
It just means you're just in a quagmire. You just have no idea of what to say or what to do,
Yeah.
and you just don't know how to respond. I'm just
Uh-huh.
flummoxed, and
Okay.
so it's an old English word. I probably
Uh-huh.
need to do some more homework on it, but it just means I just don't know. I just don't know what to
Yeah.
say. I don't know how to react. I don't know how to respond. Um, the
Hey,
the first cousin of that
uh,
word, much calmer, is interesting. Mark, you
uh,
can do that conversation if you're talking with a client or somebody and you just don't know what to say. You just go, interesting. It gives you a moment to think.
it's like one of these. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
absolutely. Yeah, if you want to do it full tilt, interesting. And if you say it
Yeah.
with a southern accent, because I'm from North
Uh-uh.
Carolina,
Uh-huh.
interesting. You can buy yourself at least 10 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny when talking to my wife, she's from the South also. Um, she'll look at me sometimes and she'll be just like, "Oh, bless your heart." You know. And being from the South, you know what that means.
Oh, absolutely. You can say
Uh,
anything you want about anybody as long as you finish
exactly.
it with bless their heart or bless your heart.
Exactly. Oh man, I love chatting with you, Jones, and I'm really excited about this conversation because I think we're going to talk about some of the things that you've been doing, and you have a new book out,
Mhm.
focused as a bee, and what's been your inspiration, not just around this book, but other books that you've written?
Sure. Great question. Love that, Mark. Let me kind of go back in history a little bit.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
so my history, of course, being in speaking and training, around 2000, I had one of the big breaks in my career when someone handed me a copy of the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Now,
Mm.
for your listeners 35 and under, there was a book called Who Moved My Cheese? Because, that was 20 years ago, 25 years ago now.
Yes.
Um, but and so I was amazed by what it taught me. and how I love the
Mm-hmm.
power of story to help me figure out what I needed to do differently about change. And so I
Yep.
actually called the company. I know they had some training materials and talked with them.
Yep.
Long story short, I actually went to work for the company as their senior trainer for a couple
Okay.
years. And so I got to see the power of giving somebody a metaphor or an analogy and then letting them figure out what their next step was based on the metaphor. I
Uh-huh.
didn't have to be the expert. I'll never forget,
Yes.
Mark, probably 2001, I was asked to go speak to USA Air when they were doing one of their mergers
Uh-huh.
or those things. And I thought, what have I got to say to some airline executives about change? But it was
Uh-huh.
fascinating as I just opened up the model and then said, "What's the handwriting on the wall for you?" or some of those things. They would say it, and then they could figure out what they needed to do. So that was the really the big aha for me, which
Okay.
led to future books. Juggling Elephants is about managing your work in life like it's a circus.
Yep.
And so, again, I can ask the question, where do you need to be a better ringmaster of your circus? And even though your listeners have never read the book yet, they already
Yes.
know, yeah, I know what that means.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so then always growing, leading with a gardener's mindset. And
Yep.
then the new book, the latest one out, is Focused as a Bee, uses the principles of honeybees, the life of honeybees, and a beekeeper or beekeepers to help people understand how to improve their focus. So again, it's all about, to me, what I have found
Yep.
my strength to be sharing a story, helping people take some learning points from it and then go take that next step to improve.
Jones, when I read Always Growing and Juggling Elephants, it was like those aha moments for me because you're right.
Good.
People will be like, "Oh yeah, you got to read this business book and that business book." It's like, what are they telling me? They're telling me textbook. The thing I love
Mm,
about your books is they take what could be textbook and bring it into real life
mm,
situations, real life scenarios, and
mhm,
it's more impactful when I read some for me when I read something like that, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this, or oh, I'm creating, I got my rings out of whack here, and I've
mhm,
used them
mhm.
in during, for personal relationships, as well. It's like, oh, your rings are out of whack, and my
Bless your heart.
bless my heart, and my wife will be. That's exactly what she'll say. She'll be like, oh, bless your heart, and so. What are some ways that you would encourage um, or have you heard organizations or people within organizations apply the lessons that you're trying to get across in your book to either their work or personal life?
Sure. I think there's two levels, Mark, that I'm seeing people apply the principles from the book. One is that individual level, which
Yep.
is how do I improve my focus on what's most important? How do I use my time more wisely to get the outcomes I want? And probably the biggest aha for people is this idea of permissions, which we'll probably get
Yes.
into a little bit later. Is
Uh-huh.
is oh yeah, there's something I need to give myself permission to do to help me to focus or to get the task done or to finish the project. That would be the individual level. On the organizational level, this has been a fun one. Is it's all about when you think about bees, you think about a hive.
Uh-huh.
And so when you look at an organization as a hive, and there's been other books, I'm not the first one to write about
Hmm.
organizations being a hive, but when you ask the question, how do we thrive as a hive? And so, how do we work together as individual worker bees, if you will,
Hmm.
to create the outcome for the organization so that it's successful, just like a hive wants to thrive, which means it's going to be around another year or it's going to grow another hive that's going to swarm off and create a new opportunity for some more bees. So individually, it's just it is that it's focusing, managing distractions. Organizationally, it's what's going on for us, what are we noticing, what's changing around us that we can work together to create a better outcome.
Yes. In thinking along those lines, when you have so much change that's going on in the world, um, you know, organizations, having to figure out, oh, how is AI going to impact me, and all of a sudden they've built their hive in a certain place. Work from home is a great example of this.
Mm,
Um, you know, I've built this amazing hive. It's so pretty. It's multi-layered and everything else.
mhm.
Oh, and then you have COVID, or you have something else, and then all of a sudden the swarm has to go somewhere else,
Yeah,
to go ahead
yeah,
and reinvent itself. Um,
yeah,
you know, so that
yeah.
that I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
thank you. Thank you.
Um, yeah, so as you were talking about permission,
Hmm.
it's interesting because I have a good friend that um, a relative passed away,
Mm,
and and she would not allow herself
mm.
to grieve. And I
Yeah,
said, you have to
yeah.
give yourself permission to grieve.
Wow.
And so
Yes.
talk to me a little bit about how critical giving yourself permission to focus or to do things is for people, regardless of what role they're in.
Yeah. And just to start, the book is built around the premise that we need to give ourselves permission to focus because we naturally give ourselves permission to be distracted. In other words,
Mhm.
we don't intentionally. In fact, the definition of focus probably ought to go there. The
Yeah.
definition of focus is the intentional direction of your time and energy towards what matters most. And you think about it, there's three parts there. You got to be intentional, and it's
Yeah.
time and energy. It's not just time, it's
Hmm.
time and energy. And then third, toward what matters most. And so all three of those elements are important. So we need to give ourselves permission to have intentional direction of our time and energy towards what matters most, because we don't usually do all three of those, and we wind up getting distracted. We don't know what our priorities are, or we haven't planned our day, or we get distracted by the notifications or the people around us or thoughts in our head. And so we have to give ourselves permission to focus. Now, under that, if for those of listeners who are mind mapping this podcast, there are six permissions we talk about in the book that are important if you ultimately want to focus. And
Uh-huh.
it starts with that permission to prioritize. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And so it's
Hmm.
giving yourself the opportunity to say, what are those task activities and projects that are most important for me to accomplish to achieve the outcome I want? Now, I got to stop right there, Mark. A lot of people don't know what the outcome is they want from their day, their week. I mean, if you
Yeah.
if you or I were traveling through an airport, and
Uh-huh.
we saw someone, or maybe we're just sitting in an airport one morning, we looked over at someone and said, "Hey, it's going to be a great day. What are the outcomes you're looking for from today?" They would say, "Who are you? You
Yeah.
alien?" People just don't think about it. They just think about taking on the next task, the next
Yes.
urgent, the next dumpster fire. And
Uh-huh.
and they don't say, what's the outcome I want? Now you may not get there, but at least you got a plan. And
Yes.
and so that's the permission to prioritize. And I could go into the other five, but I'll let you unpack them, or wherever you'd like to go with that. But the whole idea of permission is there's something I need to allow myself, or I need to encourage or motivate myself to do that's going to help me improve my focus.
I love it. And I mean, it kind of ties back to some of your other books too. You know,
Absolutely.
Juggling Elephants.
Hmm.
It's all about having focus
Hmm.
and understanding what is next. Um,
Hmm.
when you're going through your personal or professional circus.
Hmm.
I love
Absolutely.
it. I love it. Um, they yeah, leaders have a lot of noise today. Um, how can leaders cultivate that culture of focus within their
Hmm.
organizations with all the noise that's going on? Competing priorities or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
What are some recommendations that you have?
Yeah. I think the first one is that leaders have to create, and we say it all the time, but I don't know, I think we really embrace it. They have to create that shared vision.
Hmm.
Leaders have to cast the vision, but it's got to be a shared vision.
Yeah.
People want to know where things are going. And
Hmm.
if the leader isn't clear about the priority, the goals, the objectives, then people don't know where they should invest their time. They don't know how to prioritize. And so I think first of all, leaders have to create and develop that shared vision so everybody knows where things are going. I think the
Hmm.
second thing is leaders need to create, as you said, Mark, that environment where people can focus.
Hmm.
They need to try to create an environment where there's not back-to-back meetings, or if there are a lot of meetings, that there are times in between, and they need to be the ones who encourage that and monitor that. If you're a leader or manager and you're leading a meeting and you say this meeting's from 3 to 4, then you need to do your dead level best unless a crisis pops up. You're done at
Yep.
3:50.
Uh-huh.
Give those people a moment to breathe, a permission to
Yes.
recharge, as we talk about in the book.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's something else. Leaders have to create that environment. They have to model those behaviors of focus. Leaders need to, show their team that it's okay to be unavailable. And for example, there may be some of the people listening who maybe their work flow is that what I log on at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and I send out a lot of emails. Well, that's great as long as you've trained your people that hey, just because I send you an email at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, I don't want you responding to it. I want you spending time with
Yes.
your family or resting, relaxing. Tomorrow morning, yeah, I want you checking that email. And if it's a critical, if I'm sending, if I need to get in touch with you that night, I'm going to text you. I'm going to call you. But I
Hmm.
think it's helping folks be able to get their own work done, which of course ultimately is going to help the team.
Yep.
Other things leaders can do, I think leaders have to check in with their people. And
Hmm.
be asking them that question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how focused are you or have you been on your priorities this past week or our team priorities or do you feel like you've been focused on team priorities this past week?
Hmm.
And if they say a 6, okay, what can I do to help make it an 8 next week?
Yes.
Because leaders
Yes.
have a responsibility to help their team focus. And we could go on and on, Mark. I think there's lots of tactics
Oh
that
yeah.
leaders can use. Uh, but it's a great point is that somebody may individually want to focus and improve their ability to work on right things, but if they're not in an environment where other people are doing the same thing, it's hard. Um,
Yes. You.
in a honeybee hive,
Uh-huh.
we talk about this. Honeybees are constantly communicating with each other. They're
Hmm.
constantly telling them what's going on inside the hive, outside the hive. So honeybees always know where to invest their time because everybody's on the same page and everybody's talking with each other. And now you say,
Yep.
wait a minute, Jones, you just said they got to be unavailable. Well, remember, we're talking about honeybees, and that's the thing about metaphors and parables. You gotta use what works. There
Hmm.
there might be something about bees, like there's a tactic that bees use where they throw the old bees out of the hive. That does not mean you need to throw people like Mark and I who are 50 plus out of your workforce.
Exactly. Ageism may work for bees, but not for humans.
I love that. Oh, that'll be a LinkedIn post one day. I love that.
Exactly. And it's kind of cool because when you talk about the honeybees, everybody has a certain role. Not everybody can be the queen bee.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
there's only one queen in the hive, and everybody understands what their roles and responsibilities are. So, and I love how you say this, the hive can thrive,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah.
And
Well, that whole one job thing.
yep,
And talk about a misconception a lot of people have about honeybees. As I'm going around talking about the book and meeting
yep.
people and things, they'll say, "Oh, yeah, the queen bee is most important." Like, well, she is important from the standpoint she lays the eggs. And without eggs,
Hmm.
you don't have other bees
Yep.
because for example, in the summer right now, the average life of a honeybee is 42 days. It doesn't live
Okay.
long. It literally works itself to death. But
Uh-huh.
other honeybees, other than the fact that the queen's laying eggs, which is essential, they don't
Uh-huh.
depend on her for anything. She does
Yeah.
not communicate to them other than the fact that she's laying less eggs, and they go, "Oh, time to do something."
Yep.
Everybody knows what their one job is to do to contribute to the hive thriving. And they
Uh-huh.
do that job until it's done or until by age they move on to another job.
Or get thrown out of the hive.
Well, that's it. Yeah, and they're old. They get thrown out by an undertaker bee of all things. I mean, there are
Oh my
undertaker
gosh.
bees, Mark, that their job is to pull the dead and dying bees out of the hive for cleanliness. So,
Oh my,
yeah.
pretty cool. Pretty cool. They got their own internal sanitation department. Who
Oh,
knew?
they do. Oh, and I got to throw this in. When you say
Uh-huh.
that, some people may be thinking about that movie that Jerry Seinfeld, the Bee Movie, back in
Yeah.
the 2006 and whatever. Well, there's one thing in that movie they got completely wrong, and that
Okay.
is that worker bees are not males. Female bees are worker bees. And of course,
Okay.
all the women listening are going, and you're surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, worker bees and hive are female bees. They only roll for the male bees. The drones are
Uh-huh.
they keep a few around in case a queen from another hive needs to be mated. Like, they'll
Okay.
fly out, and if there's a queen out there, they'll do the mating ritual and then they'll come back. In the fall of the year, they kick a lot of the drones out because they're like, why are you taking up food that we need for the winter? Get away.
Uh-huh.
It's fascinating. So,
Man, I love it. And the amount of research that you probably did in putting this book together, I'm fascinated by this, you know.
well,
It,
the best research was having
yeah.
bees, and
Okay.
let me just tell you, the first year we lost every one of our bees.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
our whole hive, just between the ones that left, because
Uh-huh.
we tried to separate our hive, divide our hives, and then later on they just didn't make it through the winter, and I mean I felt awful. But it happens,
Uh-huh.
bees are their own creatures, but that's been the most probably the most interesting part is just being beekeepers ourselves and having that attitude of learning. One old beekeeper told me, says, bees will always teach you something if you're willing to watch and learn. And he's so
Mm.
right.
As will the next generation will always teach us something
Mm-hmm.
new. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I know we've talked a little bit about this. Where can people find a copy of your book that they can go ahead and order?
Sure.
Where is it at?
Yeah. Well, first of all, almost anywhere you would buy books, most
Yep.
people go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, those places.
Uh-huh.
Amazon's available both as a hardcover, Audible, also as a Kindle. They can
Uh-huh.
also find it at my website, jonesloflin.com, or Focused as a Bee.
Uh-huh.
Focusasabee.com is where you can go learn more about the book and download or go to the different options for the book there. So that's focusedasabee.com. One cool thing about the audio book is that my daughter, Sydney, who I wrote the book with, she and I narrate it. We're doing the
Okay.
voice of that. So that was a cool journey to actually
Very
have
cool.
us do the audio book. So you'll get an audio book with a little bit of a Southern accent. So
I love it. And while they're on your website, might as well just go ahead and order the other two books. They are great reads. And I mean, honestly,
Thank you.
I read your books in like an afternoon. I mean,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
once you get into them, they just go, and that's one of the things I really appreciate, and why I just love reading your books. I've read Juggling Elephants a couple of times, so
Oh, thank you.
uh, so are you ready for the speed round?
Woohoo! You
All
bet
right, you
I'm
ready?
ready.
Let's get after
Yes.
this. All
Go
right,
ahead.
so. What fact about Jones would people be most surprised to learn about?
That I have three last names. My first name is
Okay.
Wiley. My middle name is Jones. My last name is Loflin. Now, to make it even more strange, I married someone with three first names: Lisa, Yvette, Brian. Most unusual thing about it, I didn't recognize that till we've been married for 9 years. So there you go.
Okay. And she was like, "Oh, bless your heart."
Ah! We keep. I'm just flummoxed at your comment there, Mark. So,
I love it. I love it. So I can't see you being stressed about anything, but what is your go-to tactic um to unwind after you do have a stressful day?
sure. First one is just go outside, get in
Yep.
nature.
Uh-huh.
Just it's just amazing because there's such an order there, that regardless of what your day looks like, You just start watching and looking at connections. The other thing is physical labor. I love just doing physical work of some kind, Mark, because so much of my world, as is in your world, probably a lot of it's mental. And
Hmm.
so I read a long time ago, if your job is primarily mental, you need to do physical to relax. If your job is primarily physical, you need to do mental to relax. And I think that's true. And so yeah, physical labor, whether it's just walking or working out in the yard or in the woods or garden this time of year, or you're simply just being out in nature, always helps me.
Sounds like my golf game. I could be walking in the woods. I could be
He'll be here all week,
exactly.
folks. Good job,
But up,
Mark.
bump. Always gotta bring everything back together.
Love it. Love it.
So it's a summer. I know it's hot in North Carolina as it is in Texas and pretty much
Mm,
everywhere this year. It's a hot one. Um,
yeah.
what's your go-to summer treat?
Here we go. I brought show and tell today, brother. Here's
All
my
right.
summer treat to
Ooh,
take a fresh tomato from my garden, bring it into the house, get out some loaf bread, slather a lot of Duke's mayonnaise. For those of you who don't know what Duke's
love
mayonnaise is,
Dukes.
there you go. Message me and I'll be glad to teach you. Hellman's people, you don't know what you're missing,
Hmm.
but good dose of pepper, not a whole lot of salt, trying to maintain my blood pressure, but a little bit of
Yep.
salt. That's my summer treat. I could do tomato sandwiches 3 times a day. I also eat some yellow ones now because they have less acid,
Uh-huh.
than the reds ones. But that's my go-to summer treat is a good fresh tomato sandwich.
I love it. Now, do you chase it with like a glass of lemonade or tea?
Tea is good.
Yeah.
Usually my tea now is a little bit unsweetened. Again, trying to
Yep.
manage my health. But yeah, tea's good with it. Yeah, milk's great. But if I'm
Yep.
gonna have milk, I want the milk to be cold.
Oh yeah.
A good glass of cold whole milk. In fact, I learned a new trick from one of my friends the other day. He will take a mug, put it in the freezer, and then he
Uh-huh.
sets it out, puts the milk in, and puts it back in the freezer for about 5 minutes. And I mean, it just hurts as it goes down, but it's
Ooh,
so
yeah.
good.
Oh my gosh. Ice milk, just ice milk in general. I love it. I love it.
Mm.
Oh
Oh yeah.
man. Well, Jones, last question for you.
Mm.
If someone wants to pick your brain about your books,
Sure.
motivations, interested in having you come and speak to their organization, um, what conferences you may be attending, or just generally wanna just chat with you, how can they
Mhm.
contact you?
Sure. Of course, I know you're going to put some information in the notes there, Mark, for folks
Yep.
to see. But best way, of course, to contact me would be to go to my website. In the top right, I think there's a box that says, I think it says contact Jones or hire Jones. You're
Uh-huh.
not going to immediately hire me if you click on that, but it's got a contact form. My
Yep.
email is real simple. If you know my name, Jones Loflin, my email is Jones at jonesloflin.com. Yeah, Mark, one of the things that I love about what I get to do is that, people will be listening to this podcast or they might hear me speak at a program and they say, well, you mentioned time management or you mentioned something that triggered a thought for them. How do you do that? And I love to have those conversations via phone or email exchange or even, in a video format because I learn. Because I'll say, well, tell me what's
Yes.
going on in your company or your organization that's causing that to be the case, and so it really helps me develop, some understanding of them, their world, their industry. So that would be the number one way that they could connect with me. I also put out a lot of content on LinkedIn. In fact, I try to
Hmm.
put something out every day related to what I talk about. So if you're on LinkedIn, then just type in my name, Jones Loflin, and connect with me, follow me. Don't follow me, connect with me, because that way
There
you
you
and I
go.
can have more of a mutual relationship in that way, and I can learn a little bit more about you. But that would be the next way, Mark, somebody
Excellent.
could get to me. Mhm.
So, one of the things you just said there, and in all the conversations that we've had, I've never heard you say what you have to do or what you need to do. It's always
Mm.
about what you get to do. Um,
Oh, oh,
so, as you were going through, any of these, you're talking about the conferences or the speaking engagements that you get to do, you know, I love how you phrase it because, nothing is given. Um,
right.
and the fact that you're able to do, the things that you do in the way that you do them, I mean that's just a gift. And this conversation I really appreciate. Um,
Thank you.
you know, for anybody that's wondering, will Jones actually respond? I think I reached out to you after reading Always Growing or
Yep, that
Juggling
was it.
Elephants, one of the
Hmm.
two, and and I said I'm really interested in being connected with you and following you for different content, and you accepted like very quickly. And so if you're wondering if Jones is really an open networker, he most definitely is. It's not just words.
Well, thank
So
you. Well, thank you,
Jones,
Mark. And on that note, let me, if I may, just as you're finishing up,
yeah.
one of the things that this may seem like a highlight reel for some folks. Let me tell you some things I don't do well. I don't do marketing well, and it's not
Mhm.
that marketing is important and those things, but I've never figured out the marketing piece and those things. What I have found is develop great mutual relationships and things will take care of themselves. You still got to provide quality programming. You still need to be professional in everything you do. And if you do those things and really focus on building strong relationships with people, things tend to work out well.
Yes, they do. Authenticity is an amazing thing, you know.
There you go.
Um, and with that, Jones, it's been a pleasure having you on this afternoon. Yes, we are recording this in an afternoon, and it's been awesome to chat with you again. One of the things that to be authentic, we don't do any editing on Coffee Talk with Brohawk, so you're never gonna say, oh well, that was edited out, or no. We're this is just an authentic conversation, and this is just Jones and I just riffing off one another.
Absolutely.
So if you like this episode, please like, subscribe. If you want me to do an introduction with Jones, because you're nervous about reaching out to somebody you don't know, I'd be more than happy to go ahead and do that.
Sure.
And definitely go check out his new book, Focused as a Bee. It's worth the read. And there it is. And I think it may actually come in some wrapping as well.
Depends. Yeah, it can. Absolutely.
It depends on who you know. Excellent. Well, Jones, thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Well, Mark, thanks for having me on your podcast. I appreciate the work you're doing and the positive energy you're spreading to so many folks.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day now.